New video, gotta get Mac DeMarco playing over this. So I watched the movie Circle from 2015, and it impressed me as the weird thing about being a child, in any sense of the word, is that you don't recognize it at the time. Like, I remember always as a kid, I was like, well, I'm not a kid and I'm not an adult. I know that. Um, but the movie itself, the movie Circle, reminds me of how uh, I am a fan of The Walking Dead. And I think of it as I'm a fan of The Walking Dead in the same way a lot of people are, a fan of things. In that, what makes you a fan is that the buzz has sort of receded, and you're actually not really as interested in the show or even like discussion about the show as you are in sort of the ideas around the show and the ideas around the show that would appeal to other people. Specifically, the appealing thing about both The Walking Dead and the movie Circle, I think what's very woke about them and about a lot of these sort of hidden slasher movies is that a lot of people die. One person dies, two people die, three people die, 49 people die, and someone's left, and it's just sort of mystical, you know? Of course, you'd think, like, oh, I watched this, it's a foregone conclusion, given how plots are constructed. But it's always a little like, whoo. Now, why I think this is because, um, you know, think of how that could not work. How it could not work is that, uh, so it's either like a universal or existential question. It's either did they all have to die, or did this guy have to live? Now, the the thing about most of these plots is that they're non-action plots because it's all solvent as to like what's gonna happen, which is that everybody's gonna die. So really, like similar to The Walking Dead, each sort of arc or a semi-arc of the movie is about sort of building up a new antagonist, building up a new sort of idea of a valley, which is very fruitful for analysis. When you have a movie that's very fraught, very sort of by the numbers, and you get the numbers in the right way that you can sort of see the code behind it. The code. Now that reminds me of a recent joke on Cumtown where Nick was like, "What if you just went to Japan and pulled down a woman's pants and it was all like, just pixelated, and then like you tried to fuck her, and it's just like Neo going into the Matrix makes a dial sound." Now, that is a real problem. Having those two problems granted to you for this sort of, uh, what do you call it, Shaggy Dog story. Um, but the thing is that um, it can't work on both levels. Every story is going to be flawed. Uh, but if you have it so that, um, for instance, the character has some redeeming qualities, given the sort of overwrought, sort of shit, ending, then that can be sort of nice. That's why, a lot of apocalypse movies, 28 Days Later, whatever, they succeed because you can actually make it very successful if you put them through a lot of nonsensical bullshit. Then you sympathize with them because it's not actually like you're trying to make the audience take the situation seriously. It's more like of a commentary. And the commentary part, now that isn't really that interesting. That isn't very important. What's important there is the sort of participation in a story. It's sort of meta. But on the other level, so if the character doesn't deserve to have gotten there to the end of the story, then you can also make that a thing. You can make that a thing of philosophy. Look one way and look the other way, and it's all still philosophical. It just depends on if anyone's actually putting forth the philosophy. You can be solemn about it, but you're not really putting out any energy. You can try to make a sort of sob story about it, but that's not a story that people will believe. It's a story that people will entreat. No matter how you take it, if you come from a certain angle, you can appeal to the minds of people in the everyday who feel those stakes also. They feel morally implicated in things that they don't take much interest in. And so they have a very complicated mindset about it. There's no point in slotting things into a particular politics with a bunch of confidants once you get to that point. Or at least it seems like there isn't, because people aren't quite sympathetic in that way. Now that's the whole problem, is trying to look at people as sympathetic in that way. I think we found throughout history, really, that community is a bit of an unhelpful thing. Although you're bound to sort of protect the thing that you've relied on, that you can't rely on anymore because of its inherent vice. Just because you think of it as protecting yourself